So I'm here with my father, Dan Lauriano. He also is a restaurateur. He's been in the business for 30 plus years, and he's very knowledgeable on the subject of how to start a business and restaurant. He understands hospitality and customer service very well. So I feel like he would have been a good person to talk to and get some insight from. So thanks for being here, Pop. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I guess the first question I'd like to ask you is so everybody can kind of understand what you've done in your career. How did you start? Like, what got you into the business, and what was your first endeavor, and how did it go? And just kind of talk to us about the beginning, if you can.
15 years old, needed to get a job, had a car coming up, had to pay for gas. So got a job at Marie Callender's in Anaheim, California as a dishwasher's helper. It's a pretty prestigious spot. Learned my way around a dish pit, learned the intricacies and the artwork and the fine hard work that it took to be a dishwasher, which was really cool. Graduated into I think the official term was floor cleaner. And then over the course of about a year, I ended up moving up to cook's, I don't know what you'd call that, cook's grunt guy, the go get it guy. I need this, I need that. So you had to know your way around the walk-in pretty well. So went from that to ultimately the pinnacle of my career with Marie Callender's was busboy. So that's where I ended up. I was the salad bar guy. I was the guy that built the salad bars for a very famous salad bar chain. So that was their big hook with the elderly crowd that they had, was pies and their salad bar. So I was the guy in Anaheim that got to build that thing. And then years went by. I went to college. Was a drummer by trade. That's how I was paying my bills, was playing drums. Graduated from USC in Los Angeles, and my band got an offer to move to Hawaii. Lived out in Hawaii for about 3 years and got called home, and we had a tragedy in the family. My sister's husband passed away very unexpectedly at 39 years old, and he had a massive heart attack, and she was 7.5 months pregnant at the time. So I had to get a job, try and contribute to the family a little bit more than being a drummer. So then I went and hit up some of the clubs that I had played at, and a very nice man by the name of Kevin Petramo at a place called Casey's in Orange, California, gave me an opportunity and allowed me to be the day manager in a nightclub, which was actually the best move ever, because the day manager is the guy who places the orders, the guy who also receives the orders, the guy that really starts to get his feet underneath him, understanding the critical part of the business, which is inventory controls and margins. And I was taught by an old school guy that did all of this on a yellow piece of paper and a pencil. Everything, tracked all of his sales, recorded all of his.
So there was no piece of paper. It was just
there was no point of sale. Period. There was no such thing. There was no fancy micros, Aloha, Positouch, touch or toast or any of those crazy formats out there. There was no web-based anything. There was no web. We had no computers, no nothing. So it was a little different. It was nice to grow up in that era because we actually learned how to do the job. Nothing did the job for us. We didn't have the benefits of Excel spreadsheets that could do a massive amount of calculating. We had to literally know how to do the work.
So there were certain formulas that you had to know in order to get your food cost, your margins.
Yeah, 100%.
All of that. And the overhead percentage you were running, all that.
Every bit of the daytime work in a nightclub is really about maintaining, securing, knowing your inventory, and controlling that inventory. Understanding that every alcohol, you have a 30-day pay cycle on most of your alcohol in California. It's a 30-day cycle. In other words, your terms are 30 days. So everything you buy today is due 30 days from now. Now, if that product is still sitting on the shelves and you've paid the bill 30 days later, you bought too much. That's the way I was taught. The idea being, by the time we pay that bill, that product better be gone. Otherwise, we didn't need it. We could have bought it on the next cycle. So It was an interesting way to learn. It was a very old school way to do it, but it was very valuable because even with the advent of all the technology, as it came along, Excel spreadsheets and all this stuff, if you didn't understand how the calculation and the formulas worked for you to maintain your margins or to even determine your margins, the Excel spreadsheet couldn't cheat you that much. There's no restaurateur's Excel spreadsheet.
Correct.
So you have to learn how to make those formulas, what, A plus B divided by C, and how that all works in your favor in terms of management. So it was the best sort of education I could have got at the right time. So I was day manager there for a grand total of, I believe, about 7 days, which doesn't sound like enough time to get an education, because it really isn't. But in the 7th day, they caught the general manager doing something he shouldn't have been doing, and they fired him. So being the day manager, they said, we need you to hold down the fort. Just hold it down while we find a new general manager. Okay, fair enough. So I worked day and night, got to work early, got home at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
How many hour days were you?
About 105 a week, 105 hours.
Wow.
I did that for about, I want to say, it was around 7 months, 8 months, and it was killing me. It was starting to wear on me. I was literally getting home when my father was going to work. He was up ready for work, and he kind of identified it, and he's the one that told me, I need you to put in your 2-week notice. There's a point in the learning curve that I'm comfortable with, and you're beyond that. Now, this is becoming kind of crazy labor. 105 hours a week is a lot of hours. It's a tremendous undertaking.
How many days a week? Was it 7?
7 days a week. There's no days off. Nothing.
You're probably running what, 20-hour days?
Yeah, at least. I mean, there was days where it went over 24. I would literally be there around the clock.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work. It was a crazy undertaking, but it was a hell of an education. And although the game plan of threatening to quit, given my 2 weeks, and I eventually got a raise through that and got promoted to the general manager position. Wow. That I did for about 6 years. I love those guys. They taught me a ton, and we got along real well. So it was a good relationship, and it gave me all the foundation I needed to get started. In 1996, I started to break away, and the timing was right for me to start my own restaurant. So I partnered up with a couple guys, and we had a heck of an idea, and we got very lucky. We struck lightning in a bottle, so to speak.
What was it?
It was called the Rock and Taco Cantina. Friend of mine from high school wanted me to go down to our local town there in Fullerton, California, check it out. And it was it looked like a crazy spot. It was a spot we had been in as kids. It had been abandoned and was pretty in rough shape, but we took it on and renovated it, opened it up. And I had a couple of musician buddies of mine that jumped in, and we opened up Southern California's really first dueling piano bar. And it took off like I can't even begin to tell you. Like, it was exactly what you dream of. You open the doors and oh my God.
The floodgates.
Floodgates came. So, and we sucked. We absolutely stunk. And you have to learn how to do. I had to transition from being a nightclub guy, which I got that down. Then it became restaurants. And I remember calling my boss from the nightclub saying, can you please come here and help me? And
awesome.
He came a couple times. We had lunch, and I would explain the stuff that I was struggling with, but it was understanding the differences between a food operation, a full-time food operation, and an alcohol operation, and the differences between those two. And he taught me a world in those lunches. So I was always very grateful to the man, and God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. He died an untimely death.
Do you think that if not for him, you wouldn't?
I definitely probably wouldn't even have stayed in restaurants. Honestly, the thing I learned back then was that restaurants was a trade, not any different than becoming a plumber or becoming an electrician or becoming a construction guy or anything else. You have to learn that. It's not just some God-given talent. You're not born with it. Oh, he's just a natural born restaurateur. There's no such thing. You got to learn it. You got to learn the business. So that's really the essence of people set their mind that this business is easy. Everybody can do it. If you got $300,000 sitting around or you're retiring, you always want to open up a bar and everybody invest every dime they have into it, but they don't really understand how the business works.
The economics of it.
It's a lot to learn. There really is a heck of a lot to understand about the hospitality industry and how you make money in the resale of these products that you're purchasing. And a lot of people don't take the time to learn it. Figure, well, if we put enough neon signs up, we have draft beer, everybody loves draft beer, and we put up some TVs, we should kill it. We'll make some wings, make some cheese sticks. It's going to be easy. We're going to have so much fun, and we're going to be here every night having a ball. It is the complete opposite of that, and people learn that, and then you've got to see some of it on television with kind of highly dramatic, highly theatrical shows that are on TV, and guys like Gordon Ramsay and John Taffer and all that stuff, and brought all that to light. But it is really a trade. I mean, if there's a lesson to be learned in those fake TV shows, it's a trade. You got to learn the trade. So they bring in professionals in each of the categories that you're struggling with, and those professionals try to teach you bartending and alcohol management and control and inventories, and then chefs that come in and really teach you plate costs and all those things. You put all that together, and now you got yourself an education. So that's kind of where I started. I ended up opening up Japanese concepts that became kind of what I'm most known for in Southern California is the sushi teppanyaki business. I opened up a couple of very loyal teppanyaki restaurants. Those are the Benihana style tables where they cook in front of you. And sushi really became our thing. I got very lucky and met a man who really just put me on his back and took me for a 20-year ride. I could never thank him enough for. And sadly, he is no longer with us either. So God rest his soul as well. But a heck of an education in fresh fish and the difficulties of running a Japanese restaurant, which are tremendous when you're dealing with fresh product that's going to be consumed raw. The protocols and the
You mean like in terms of the health
yeah
codes and the standards that go into making sure that it's safe to eat?
It's a lot different than the guy running the sports bar doing jalapeno poppers and cheese sticks and stuff that he can buy frozen from a major food supplier. When you're buying fresh fish and you're preparing it to be served and eaten raw, there's a whole separate set of protocols that has to be maintained every single day. There's no laxing. There's no put it in autopilot and hope for the best, and you could kill somebody if you're not really paying attention to what you're doing. You're not really paying attention to what you're buying is also a very dangerous thing. You got to know where you're getting your products. So it was a different education, but what I've been blessed with throughout my career is the ability to surround myself with people that really know what they're doing, because God knows I don't, and absorb as much of that education as I could get from those guardian angels that I've had all along the path. So that's really the story. So I've just been very fortunate enough to have very talented people that have really taught me a ton. And through that process, I've been the great benefactor of their experience and their knowledge. And, you have to have that in life. This is not a business of raw talent. The best chef doesn't always have the most successful restaurant. Matter of fact, often he doesn't have a restaurant at all. So you have to have the right people, the right work ethic, and you've got to be that guy that's going to be the first one in the door and the last one out the door, and be okay with that. Work ethic is a big deal. It's a ginormous problem in this country. Somewhere along the line, we changed the script on young people coming up and working in the workplace, and that was not a good move. We didn't do the country any service by telling kids with no experience that they were entitled to anything, that they didn't have to earn every single step of the way. That was a scary move that we made, to kind of teach these kids that you can get from A to Z without having to go through B, C, E, and F and all the other letters. As you will find out as you go into business, work ethic and character, and somebody that really has integrity about what they do and how they perform in life. Those are the people that you will gravitate towards. Those are the people that you will cling to, like the buoy in the ocean. I mean, they will become your guides and your saviors in a lot of ways, because they can really
Right.
make a difference in an establishment.
I think that's very, I think you're 100% right.
There you go.